Thanks for joining us here on Capitol Tonight. I'm Karina Kling. After months of delay, a plan to cut your property taxes is on the fast track. Today, the Texas Senate passed a key portion of an $18 billion package that would help both homeowners and businesses. While Democrats joined Republicans in passing the bills, they raised concerns about a lack of new money for schools. One even criticized House leadership for removing a Senate-backed amendment to give teachers a bonus.
I just want to know which one of those two people decided to abandon the teachers of Texas and not give them a pay raise.
Senator Gutierrez, one moment. That's not an appropriate question.
Republicans pointed out that will be addressed in the next special session. The full property tax relief package is expected to be voted on and sent to the governor tomorrow. Governor Abbott says he'll sign it, but he's been part of the sticking point to getting a deal done. He argues doing it his way could eventually eliminate property taxes altogether. Charlotte Scott reports on the realities of such a promise.
Howdy!
For more than a year, Governor Greg Abbott promised Texans that he'd use half of the state's $33 billion budget surplus to cut property taxes. Finally, the Texas House and Senate came to an agreement on how to do that. But the governor has bigger plans for the future.
What we want to achieve in the state of Texas is to eliminate your property taxes. Make them go away.
Property taxes are levied at the local level by government entities and school districts. A majority of the money pays for a school's maintenance and operation, or M&O costs. The other chunk goes towards the interest and sinking, or INS, tax rate, which provides funds to pay for the debt that finances local facilities. The state can buy down M&O costs through what's called compression. The governor wants to compress that rate to zero, so homeowners' property tax bills would be cut by about 75%. He says the revenue could be replaced with franchise and sales taxes, and he says more people will spend money, thereby generating more sales tax revenue if they don't have a big property tax bill.
This system of never-ending property taxes, I think it is unethical. It's inconsistent with private property rights. Nobody can ever truly own their own home.
North Texas Representative Brian Harrison takes it a step further. He's filed legislation to get rid of both M&O and INS property taxes within 5 years. He'd like to create a committee to help local governments determine how best to replace that lost revenue with the sales tax.
It's not entirely clear that the sales tax would actually have to be increased that much.
But other Republicans aren't on the same page. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who leads the Senate, believes eliminating all property taxes isn't realistic, although he'd like to slash them as much as possible.
To eliminate all property taxes would be next to impossible. Now, to eliminate all school property taxes is still a daunting task. It would take almost 30% or more of our total budget to do that.
Democrats worry the plan would devastate the state's public education system.
I would rather hear them talking about what they're going to do to make the schools better before they start talking about how they're going to take away the way we pay for schools.
The governor is set to sign a property tax relief bill by the House and Senate later this week. And while it will save homeowners and businesses money, it will not eliminate property taxes altogether, meaning that for now, the dream of property tax elimination will remain a dream. For Capitol Tonight, I'm Charlotte Scott.
Let's bring in Josh Sanderson now. He's the Deputy Executive Director of the Equity Center, a nonprofit that represents more than 600 Texas school districts. Josh, welcome back to the program. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. I mean, what's your take on this? I mean, how realistic is it to eliminate the maintenance and operation property tax portion of this?
Well, it's only realistic if you're willing to accept the creation of a new tax or the expansion of existing taxes. And that's only because the revenue simply doesn't exist within our current tax structure in Texas. If you look at the cost of eliminating M&O property taxes in Texas, it's not a static number. It changes every single year as we get more, as the state grows, which we celebrate. We get more children, that cost expands. Right now it's just over $30 billion a year. Next year it'll be more, and so forth and so on. And so the revenue necessary to pay for that elimination would have to increase. We'd have to find additional revenue. If you, a very simple exercise, if you look at the state budget right now and all the general revenue in the state budget that's not dedicated towards healthcare or education, if you eliminated 100% of that discretionary spending that goes to law enforcement, to courts, to general government, it's about $20 billion. Oh. And so 100% of the general revenue in the current budget wouldn't pay for buying down M&O property tax rates.
Well, and I mean, with what you're saying, I mean, what would it take to get there? I mean, just if they're saying, like, let's raise the sales tax or create some kind of new tax, I mean, what would that look like? What could that potentially mean for Texans?
We've seen proposals in the past that would bring sales tax as high as 19 cents. We've seen proposals that would keep the rate relatively low but expand it to apply it to things that are exempted now, such as groceries and medical care, medical services. And so there are a number of options that where you could increase other taxes to pay for the buy down, but that is proven to be politically unpalatable in the past.
Yeah, I mean, the realities of this, do you think happening anytime soon?
No, and as we accelerate this property tax compression, which is what we're seeing happen right now, the cost goes up year over year. This is not something you pay for one time and then it goes away.
Yeah.
Every time state funds are allocated for property tax buy down, those are funds we have to pay for again next year and the following year in perpetuity. And so the state right now is essentially relying on or using this once in a lifetime surplus, and that's what the comptroller calls it. Once in a lifetime. He gave a warning of sorts to the legislature at the beginning of the session, telling them that do not expect me to come back in 2 years announcing another enormous surplus. So this is truly once in a lifetime. This doesn't happen often, and you don't have to look back far to see not only where we don't have surpluses, but where we had deficits. We've had 2 significant budget deficits over the past 20 years.
Yeah.
And so relying on constant surpluses to pay for this is history tells us that's a bad plan.
Well, and you're talking about the current package of what they're even going to pass. I mean, how, you're speaking to this, but how sustainable is that then into the future if Texans are getting excited about having some kind of property tax cut?
That's the question, and that's what we've pointed out. You know, I don't think that anybody's against a reduction in property taxes. I mean, I would like to have my property taxes reduced. The question is, how sustainable is it, and how responsible is it to other portions of the government, like education or law enforcement, that we rely on and that we prioritize? The more the state allocates revenue to this plan, the less is available for future increases in education funding or law enforcement expansion or what have you. That we have a very finite amount of state revenue, very lean budget, and our government celebrates that.
Interesting. I have so many more questions for you. We're going to have to leave it there. We'll get you back on to talk more about all of this. Josh Sanderson, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. And for more refreshing stories about your community, click the subscribe button right over here. You can also download our Spectrum News app to get live news coverage, weather alerts, and more wherever you are. And don't forget to tune in to Channel 55 on Dish and DirecTV for live local reporting every single day. We'll see you then.